Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? Joe Barnes here from Mind, Money and Marketing. And today I am excited to introduce you to a blogging aficionado, a gentleman who's been doing it for a number of years now, and I'm going to be grilling him all about how we can drive lots and lots of leads and traffic to our blog, and then how we can use our blog to drive lots and lots of leads and traffic to all of our other offers, products and services and things that we want to do online or offline. Actually, it's going to work for either business. So I would like to introduce you to a gentleman who is speaking to us. I'm in Thailand now, as a lot of you know, and I'm speaking to this gentleman. He's in Nashville at the moment, so I would like to say hello to the very lovely Dan Morris. Hello, Dan. How are you doing?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm so excited to talk to Thailand. They make the best food on the planet.
Oh, they do that. They absolutely do that.
Yes.
And I've got proof right here.
Yes.
So you're in Nashville, Tennessee. What's the weather like over there? I know it's nighttime at the moment, but what's the weather like generally through the day at the moment?
Well, we're surprisingly getting a little cold streak, which we haven't had before, but apparently it's supposed to be 30 degrees Fahrenheit in the next couple of days, which is just below the frost line, so it shall be chilly.
Oh gosh, yeah. I didn't think it ever got cold over in Nashville, Tennessee. I thought, all the films I see and everything, it's always bright sunshine and.
Well, it definitely will still be bright sunshine, but there will be that white frost on the grass. It won't be enough to actually make a snowman, but it will be frosty.
So, Dan, to start, I'm going to be grilling you today about lots of different questions. We're going to be delving into maybe some little SEO techniques and all things like that. But to start with, I'd love it if you could actually give us a little bit of background on you and what you've been doing over the last few years and what your business is all about these days.
Excellent. I'm not always the best at talking to myself, as we all are. We have to master this elevator pitch. I've never quite mastered it. I like to delve into so many parts of blogging and online marketing that there isn't one particular thing that I always just grab a hold of. But my career, which has spanned international real estate development in Romania and in the United States, I've delved into the infomercial world, helping to produce and put infomercials on TV, driving traffic from television to the web. That's pretty much where the web started. My love of all web marketing began, and from there I've been honing all that I've done. Even as far back as selling magazine subscriptions in high school and working at farms. All these little lessons that you learn along the way, I've learned that they've all led me to this position, which I have now, which I consider myself a blog revenue coach. I run a nationwide blogging workshop series called Blogging Concentrated, where we meet with 35 to 40 bloggers for a day, and we really go deep into different blogging topics. For me, I would say that it's really about business owners a lot more than it's about bloggers, because blogging is a verb really, and business owner is what I really want people to take away from the workshop series. But I've been working with brands and big clients and some successful bloggers, and now I'm in a position where I help bloggers make the leap from hobby and even part-time income to real full-time income.
Fantastic. And you've just finished one of your big tours, haven't you, right now?
Yes, we just finished an 8-city tour across the United States, from California to Lansing, Michigan, to Orlando, Florida, all the way up to Minneapolis, Minnesota. We just ended in Milwaukee. We actually had our I guess it's 8th or 9th in Milwaukee during a tornado in a coffee factory. They have a really nice conference facility in a coffee factory, and it was really a pretty neat day, other than the fact that we kind of worried about tornadoes all day, but otherwise everyone really got a lot of value and benefit out of the day. It was good fun.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'm going to start, if it's okay with you. I'm fascinated by blogging. I've been running my blog now for a while, and I'm originally somebody who came from the social media side. And I have to say, I find the social media side easier. I find it more instant and more dynamic, and I find trying to get my blog off the ground actually quite a struggle. So I'm really going to be fascinated by this discussion we're having today. But I want to start, if it's all right with you, really right at the very basics, because I have a lot of people that will be watching this who may not even have their blog off the ground yet and are thinking about it. Certainly quite a few people who have a blog but have never really done much with it yet. And so my first basic question to you is, if you were starting all over again completely from scratch, and you didn't really have a huge audience, or a kind of a massive email list to tap into or anything like that, and you wanted to begin to get your blog off the ground and start to attract an audience, what would be the first critical steps that you would take?
For me, that's a pretty easy question. And the answer is, for me, the answer, when I give it to people, it's hard to swallow. But the very first thing, no matter what, you always have an audience. Whether that audience is your family or your friends or your high school buddies, you have an audience. There are people who listen to you, who read your Facebook updates, who ask you questions. Now, when I say ask you questions, I'm quite serious about that. The questions that people ask you is kind of like your brand. It's what they think of you. Because you and I both know that there is somebody in your world who is really good at like the computer stuff. And you go to that person when you have some sort of problem with your computer. You just know, even if that person that's not their career, they just know computer stuff. They know either like the networking in your house or the Wi-Fi, or how do you set this up or how do you set that up. And we all know people who really like food. You know, they love the restaurants in town, and they're the first person we ask when someone comes in town, like, you know, where would you take somebody? You know all the people in town, or you know the good restaurants. What people ask you is really your brand. It's really what people think of you. It's what you don't ask someone who doesn't know anything about computers how to set up your Wi-Fi in your house. You just don't do that. You only ask the people who you think happen to be really good at it. That's their brand to you. That's what they represent. So when you're just starting out, what I want you to do is I really want you to think about that. What do people come to you for? What do they think you know a lot about? Because the audience is already there. Like, through your normal actions, through your normal history, the things that you've done over the course of your life, you have become the expert in something to someone. And oftentimes, you've become the expert or the go-to person for a lot of people. So my question to you is, if that's your brand and you didn't do it on purpose, isn't that also a reflection of what you actually like and what you actually do? Why don't we turn that into a business? Because you're already doing it. You already have an affinity for it. You have some experience in it, and people trust you with it. And right off the bat, we're looking for that know you, like you, trust you thing. And when your friends and family already spout your name when somebody asks a question, you've got a built-in audience. Why don't we just leverage that? So for me, even from the beginning, I mean, leverage is the key word. And like you said, you started out in social media and moved to the blog. To me, social media is so synchronous, and a blog is asynchronous, so that we can actually turn activities in a blog into a long-term venture. We can leverage an asynchronous moment. And in social media, what you do today is gone tomorrow. You know, your tweets, your Facebook updates, they're kind of gone. It's hard to build the pyramid that way. So what I want you to do is, when you're first starting out, is I want you to think about your pyramid. What does the base already look like? And if that's not something you really want to do, and if you just happen to be good at something that people have found out about, and you just don't like it, then you need to move on to the second thing. But don't ignore what your audience already appreciates about you. Start there and move your way up.
Can I just need to select this moment and point out to a lot of the audience members watching, that was just a little piece of gold advice when it comes to niche selection there, guys, because you asked me a lot, how do I find my perfect niche, Joe? What do I know what to go into? All the rest of it, and I talked to you about all the different things about your passions and your problems and solving. And what Dan just said was, think about the questions people ask you. That's absolutely fantastic. What a wonderful way to have a look at it and think, you know, what do people know me for? What do people think I'm good at? And that's reflected in the questions they ask you. So that was absolutely fantastic. Thanks for that, Dan.
Oh yeah, you know,
How important
another.
is it when you're...
Oh,
Sorry, go on.
no, we have that delay, so I suppose we'll have that a couple times today. Um, Another way to, because what you said was, I mean, you mirrored what I had just said, and when you did that, I realized, you know what? Sometimes when people hear me, they also say, well, I don't know what questions people ask me, and they can't, for some reason, they can't see that, even though it will come to them in the next few weeks when people start asking them questions again, but they can't see it immediately. And for those people, I say take one more step. Like copy all of your tweets. Go to your profile and just just keep going down and down and down and then drag a line all the way up and copy every tweet you've ever done as far back as you can go. Or you can go to your profile and you can do I think you can do like download all my tweets to Excel or something. So do that and then go to a site called Wordle, WRDLE, and take all your tweets and paste them into Wordle. And Wordle will tell you the top 2-word, 3-word, 4-word, 5-word, and 6-word phrases that you've ever tweeted, you've ever used. And if you happen to like football, football is just going to come glaring out at you when Wordle brings back their solution. And you can do that with your Facebook updates too, although it's a little harder to copy and paste those. You have to use a couple other tools. But Twitter's really easy. And you can just see like these 2-word, 3-word, 4-word, 5-word phrases that you say regularly. They'll just pop right out at you. And there's no way that you would be able to see them unless you read all your tweets out loud. And those things will help trigger your other thoughts of what I actually write about, what do I actually say, what I actually like. It's another way to kind of find your way to what it is that you actually do so you can repurpose your existing life instead of trying to make a new one.
That brings us beautifully to another question I get asked a lot, which is about the whole writing aspect of blogging. Lots of people struggle with that kind of writer's block. What do I actually write about? I think a lot of it, a lot of fear comes into it. Why are people actually going to listen to me? Are they going to read my stuff? What's the point of doing this? And what kind of tips and suggestions have you got for people who are perhaps sitting there with a blank page thinking, okay, now how do I get what's in my head onto paper or onto the web?
So I guess the first problem that I have when I hear people have that blank page stare problem is that I wonder immediately, are you writing about the right thing? Are you in the right niche? Is this something that you really like about? Because never have I gone to a theater to watch a movie and then gone out to eat with the people who just watched the movie and had people just wonder like what they were going to say. Because when you like something, when you're out and you're having fun, it's never a problem. It's like how could you ever have that blank, wow, we're at a carnival, I don't know what to say because I'm having too much fun apparently. So if you don't know what to say, think about that. Think about all the moments in life when you're having fun, and can you match the blank stare with your days of enjoyment? And I can assure you can't. There isn't any blank stare when you really enjoy what you're doing. So first of all, are you in the right niche? Are you really writing about the thing that just gets you going? And then the second thing is, do you really understand your niche? Are you really, how do I say that? Are you really positioning yourself to become the expert? And to when I ask that, one of the questions I'll ask is, who is the very top person in your industry, your niche? Like financial people could say Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman, the top authors in finance. And there's always someone, no matter what it is, even if it's hand weaving, those people who shear rabbits and they take the fur and they turn it into sweaters. There is a top person in that world. There's a top scuba diver. There's a top sailor. Like, if you don't know who that is, then do you really know your niche in general? Do you understand it? Like us in the online marketing world, most of us know the name Frank Kern. We know some of the top people in the industry that people look up to and read the books, and Seth Godin and people like that. We know that. So my question is, do you know that? And then my second question is, okay, so you do. Do you know the top magazines that talk about the topics in your niche? Do you know the handyman magazines or the writing magazines? Do you know the trade journals? Do you know the keyword research? Have you done it? Have you looked for the top keywords and really studied what it is people who want to do what you do are actually searching for. Do you really know your topic inside and out, every corner of it? And if you don't, how can you move forward without doing that, without really mapping out your entire industry on paper? Like going to the library and looking at the magazines and writing down the headlines. What are they selling the magazines based on? What headlines are there? What are the top books? What are the titles? Who are the authors? Where are the authors speaking? What kinds of conferences hire people like in your industry to speak to them? I mean, just blanket the whole industry and figure it all out. And when you figure it all out, I guarantee you'll never have the blank stare. You'll know exactly, because you know what everyone's talking about across the globe in your industry. And when you figure that out, you're 99% smarter than everyone else in your niche. And you should have no problem speaking because you know every angle.
What about quality of writing though? Let's say, okay, I've done lots of research, I know my subject, I want to put it down on paper, but you know, how do I write this? I need to start thinking about headlines, do I now, with keywords? I need to sit and I need to have a keyword headline, and then I need to think about what's actually in my writing. So I'm thinking, how many keywords do I need to have in my first paragraph? And you know, am I saying the things that people are searching for? And is this piece going to be SEO friendly? I mean, should you be thinking about all that stuff when you're writing a blog post, or should you just literally be just letting it all come out from the heart?
Well, I would say that my catchphrase in all events is there is no should. There's for J.D. Roth, who wrote GetRichSlowly.org, who ended up selling it for $2 million or something, never did any keyword research. But he got lots of traffic from the search engines. Now, he got traffic from the search engines prior to the recent algorithm changes. But I'm not sure it would even have mattered, because he wrote with precision, very similar to what Wikipedia really represents. When he picked a topic, like mortgages for newlyweds, he stuck to that topic the entire article. And he just wrote about it. No matter, paragraph 1, 2, 3, and 4 were really tight. And that was just the way that he wrote. So knowing that he wrote that way and it brought traffic in, he did not need to leverage the keyword research tools in order to figure out what to write about. He just had a really good head for where the market was and what people were thinking, and he wrote with precision. Now, I would say in general, when you're thinking about the things that you're going to write about, there are basically two types of blog posts. The first type is the solution to an answer, a solution to an answer someone is searching for. And then the second type is things that people should know, but they don't even know to search for it. We don't really want to spend our time doing search engine optimization on the posts that are things people should know, but they don't even search. Because search engine optimization is the art of standing in front of people who are already searching for that topic. So, if somebody is searching for like a how to make a sleeping bag, that is something that I would want to pay attention in order to stand in front of that crowd. I would want to do the things necessary for the search engines. But if you go back to your frequently asked questions that people always ask you, and if you ever said to yourself, well, that's a good question, but what you really should ask is, those responses, what you should have asked are the things that people don't even search for, because they just don't know to search for them. So, those are the things where we just write freehand. We just write the way we need to write to get the point across. But when nobody's searching for it anyway, there's no point in trying to do all the keywords and all the crazy stuff. So when you're beginning, this kind of analysis is very difficult to figure out. It's hard to figure out what are people searching for, what is a should have asked versus a frequently asked question. Those are things that are really hard to figure out in the beginning without some good paid keyword tools that will help you figure out the answers to those. So I say when you start is to write with precision. If you're going to write about a bathroom, don't spend half the time talking about how you skinned your knee in the bathroom, because the word skinned knee and the word bathroom, they don't support each other and they don't go together. So if you learn to write precise with precision and about a singular topic or a singular focus, then you're going to start to become relevant. Google's going to realize that you're writing something that can easily be parsed, that can easily be understood, and easily be ranked. Now, if you don't write with precision, if you don't have that ability, if you don't want to, if you want to write colloquially, if you want to write just slang phrases that maybe not even proper English, if you just want to write for fun and even just tell stories, then you should tell yourself right off the bat that I cannot be disappointed with search engine optimization results. That is not my strategy with my blog. I'm writing a novel. I'm writing something fun. I'm trying to get to the emotion or the heart of people. I'm not actually trying to solve a problem that someone's searching for. When you can tell yourself, I can't be disappointed because I'm not writing that way, then you can move forward with, with real joy. Like the site younghouselove.com. They get 100 to 125,000 people every day, and they just write about their house. And they continually write about their house with their personality and with their great pictures, and without paying attention to the keywords and other stuff. They just have decided they're going to go for community, and they're going to write with love, and they're going to answer questions, and they're going to talk about deep things that matter to them, and they're going to ignore the part that everyone else is telling them they need to work on, because they're going to build a site on community and not on the search engines. So you just kind of have to decide for yourself: am I writing with precision? Or am I writing with heart? Am I writing colloquially, or am I writing like Wikipedia? And then go for that traffic strategy that matches the way you naturally write.
Okay. All right, we're going to get into the traffic strategies in a second, actually, but before we head in that direction, I just want to stay a little bit with the structure of posts, etc. I know that a question, I can hear exactly what you're saying, Dan, and I've got a feeling I know what your answer is going to be, but I know a big question a lot of people say to me is there an ideal length when you write your blog posts? You hear some people talking about, I read it just earlier on today, actually, quite a well-known blogger comes and says, Google loves content, and one of the reasons that Google will pick you up is going to be if you write in-depth 2,000 or 3,000 word posts. So do you feel that there is an ideal length for a blog post?
Oh yes, there's definitely an ideal length. And that ideal length is the length that is required to fulfill the title. So if you're writing a blog post called How to Replace an Ice Maker in Your Refrigerator, then you just need to solve that particular problem, no matter how long it takes. Whether it's 20 words, because all you have to do is pull the ice tray out and put the other ice tray in, or whether it's 300 words because it's 8 steps. The answer always lies in serving your audience best. When they start reading a blog post, they're going to start with the title, whether they search for it, whether they see it on Facebook, or do they see it on your blog. And that title is what's going to draw them into the content. Your job as a blogger is to totally satisfy, fulfill, and probably over-fulfill what the title is telling them they're about to read. As a blogger, our job is to blog regularly. So we can't be stuck writing 2,000 and 5,000 word posts every day. You should feel free to write a 300-word post, a 20-word post, a 5,000 word post, a 10,000 word post. Your job is to really really serve your readers. Sometimes a 20-word blog post is totally awesome because it's just maybe a motivational phrase that you really need to get off your chest and your audience really wants. And if you feel like you have to put 292 extra words beyond that, then your readers are going to know it's just fluff. And the real goal in today's SEO is human interaction. So when you write, you have to write with the goal that I am going to totally satisfy and make these people happy. Because unless they feel it, unless they see related posts underneath it that just totally think, man, this site is just like everything I've ever wanted to learn, that's when they hit the tweet button, the 1+ button, the like button, the share button. That's when you get the real long-term SEO that's going to totally outlast any of the search engines. So when it comes to writing the appropriate length, just think about Boeing. Boeing is this plane in the United States, and they sell planes to places like Germany, and to the country, to the actual president of Germany or whatever that is, the chancellor. So in order to sell that plane, they have to go to Germany how many times? The exact number of times it takes to sell the plane. That's how many times they have to go. How many times does Hershey's have to go to your house to sell a candy bar? They don't. They just stick it right next to the grocery aisle. One little tiny little thing. What it takes to sell the candy bar is very little compared to what it takes to sell the plane. So when you're writing content, just think about it. What is it going to take to fulfill the title of this blog post? Is it going to be little, or is it going to be Boeing?
Dan, your answers are phenomenal. Can I just say that? I love the way you think. I completely understand why people want to follow you around the country and come and spend a day with you. What? Your answers are they're immediately giving me the answers. I'm sitting here listening, thinking I'm doing this for my viewers, and as I'm here, I'm thinking, God, that was a piece of gold there. That was absolutely brilliant. Love that. So just some great answers coming out. This is fantastic. So staying on that theme, so that's the length of the blog post, exactly what's required to fulfill the title. Now let's just talk about multimedia within the blog post. Is it important that in a blog post you should, where you can, add images and add videos and things like that, or should blog posts actually be focused around the text and the content? I mean, how important is it to mix up the blog post with other media items?
Well, I'm going to start the question off like I always do, and that is, there is no should for any person on the planet, because an encyclopedia is very different than People magazine. So your goal should always be to entertain and provide value to your audience. Now, I believe that multimedia is leverage. If you are out and about and you have the opportunity to actually create a video while you're waiting in line somewhere, or whether you're in the car or you're at the carnival and you have some free time, that is leveraging your time for your business. So that enables, when you come back with that video and you plug it into a blog post, not only do you entertain, but you've taken on the business activity of leveraging your time. So both of those things are fantastic. Now, as far as video and pictures and all that in your blog posts, very, very few people these days read straight content unless you're reading a novel. And when you read a novel or you break out your Kindle, your mindset is totally different than it is on the internet. I mean, we are now in a Pinterest microwave world where people read headlines and the first sentence of paragraphs, and that's pretty much it. So anytime you can entertain them with some other medium, whether it's a picture or a video, you're going to get a lot more engagement. People are going to stay on your site a little bit longer. Now, if your traffic comes from a place like Pinterest, your traffic, that mindset is click, 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 picture, 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 picture. If you don't provide that on your page, you're going to get the immediate bounce. They're going to go, oh yeah, that is exactly what I wanted. That's why I pinned it. I'm going to go back and click, 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 click. So on your Pinterest-based traffic pages, make sure you're also providing that click, 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 click. You're giving them those additional things in the sidebar that are related to the post, or you're giving them the related post at the bottom that enables them to go, oh yeah, look at that, another green bean casserole recipe. Click and pin. Just try to think, what is the mindset of my reader when they get here? If it's totally novel-based, then go, more power to you. Write a novel. Like, I'm very excited when I, read magazines that have really long articles, but I picked it up for the sole purpose of reading a long article. But, if I go to People magazine and there's a 16-page spread, that's not where the mindset of the reader is. So where does your traffic come from? Who's your traffic? What do they want? And then provide the multimedia opportunity that solves that problem.
All right, so let's actually start to delve a little bit, if we can, into traffic now, because I'm thinking about some of the questions that I get from people that feel that their blog is like a ghost town. It's literally they've written loads of posts. We get these questions all the time. Joe, I've written loads of posts. I've got my blog posts out there. I'm posting them on my Facebook page. I'm writing all this stuff. I'm not getting any interaction on my blog whatsoever. Where am I going wrong? So if somebody's blog is a bit like a ghost town, what's your advice to start to give it a bit of traction and get a bit of engagement and action going?
So you're talking about just sole engagement. Now, there's a difference between traffic and engagement. You can get a lot of traffic and then still have nobody leaving comments. And you can have very little traffic and people leaving a lot of comments. So think about dictionary.com. They get a ton of traffic, but people only go there to read a definition. They don't even care about related definitions. I mean, if you go there to see what the definition of segue is, I mean, why do you care about the definition of persnickety? And even if it was on the bottom, like, okay, but I was really just looking for segue. Thank you for playing. Now, that site has a 100% bounce rate, which is perfectly fine. That's what it's designed to do. So what is it that you're actually providing your audience? Are you providing a dictionary.com type interface where it's just some facts laid out in front of them? Or are you actually providing something that's going to create some sort of emotional response? You know, if you're writing something that has emotion to it, you're going to get an emotional response, especially if you go specifically to anger or, you know, or to be controversial. Then you're going to get people who just can't help themselves. They have to write something. I mean, just tell how much you love Obama in like 45 posts, and I can guarantee you somebody is going to say something, good or bad. They're just going to be there. So you have to figure out what is it that you're providing, because what you're providing is also a mirror of the traffic that you have. So you started providing, let's just say 6 months ago, articles that are informative but not engaging. They're just informative. And that traffic has come back because that traffic likes informative articles. Now, if you've built this family of people who love informative articles and they're not really forum people, and then you're expecting them to turn into forum people, then maybe you're expecting something that you didn't originally invite. Maybe you actually have to rebrand a little bit. You have to become something that you're currently not. Because, and you can leverage the non-forum people. I mean, you can get them to, instead of commenting, you can get them to download things. Because if they just like informative things, then maybe they'd be willing to engage in a download phase. Like, I'll put my name and email in and I'll grab something from you, but I'm not going to change my personal culture and leave a comment. I mean, maybe that's just the people that you've invited, just through your messaging, the way that you write, the posts that you've had on the last year. So you don't necessarily want to try to change people. You just want to try to match your content to what it is that they really want. Maybe they are silent people. I mean, you think about an incontinence blog. You know, incontinence is this debilitating disease that has, you know, people stuck in their homes because they're afraid to go out because they might, you know, go to the bathroom in their pants. And they use those apps to find the bathroom. So even if they have to go to the doctor, they know the 11 bathrooms between here and the doctor. You know, if you have a blog about that, those people aren't going to raise their hand and leave a comment on there, because that's like saying, I actually do this. And that's admitting, like, I have this problem. And they don't do that. And no matter what you do, no matter how many questions you ask or, you know, controversial statements you make, you're kind of going against the grain. So I say really step back from your blog and really take a look at it. Like, what is it that I have built? And who's really coming? Maybe I just don't have commenters. Now, if that's not the case and you think I do have commenters, I'm just not doing something right, then maybe read your own blog posts and read old ones and see, does it create any emotional response in me? Does it make me flee? Does it make me want to fight? Does it make me want to run? Does it make me want to hug? Like, what is it? I mean, when do you actually leave a comment? Is when you get excited about something, anger or fear or you love. Can you produce those things? And if you don't even feel it yourself, then nobody else will either.
So if your blog posts are a little bit kind of run-of-the-mill and are more statements, I suppose, rather than question. I mean, when you're writing a blog post, is questioning people and trying to sort of, extract answers out of people a good way to try and increase the engagement as people are reading?
Well, it's always a good way to ask questions, but you also want to make sure that the emotion is in the question. I mean, people read questions all the time. And whether you actually feel compelled to answer it is really really what we want to get. How do we get people feel compelled to answer the question? Now, I don't even remember. There used to be a mayor in New York. His name was Rudy Giuliani. He's pretty popular in the United States. I don't think he's doing much these days. But while he was mayor of New York City, he by himself, along with his team, he helped reduce the crime rate in New York City. And he did that by doing one thing. He had a no graffiti policy. So if policemen saw graffiti on a wall, their job was to remove the graffiti that day or the next day. And they were like bonused on that. So they had to get community people involved, and they had to get rid of graffiti. And as they got rid of graffiti, people in the neighborhood realized that graffiti was not acceptable. It's just not something they would do. Now, the reason that they went up through this approach is because graffiti begat graffiti. When people saw a broken window or they saw graffiti on walls, they felt like they could do that too, because that's what was already done. I mean, it was already there. So on your blog post, try like an experiment. Try a graffiti experiment. Write some blog posts and get some friends to come to your site and leave some comments. Have them leave 1 or 2 comments and see if other people feel like, oh, look, there's comments. If there's already comments and the comments are acceptable, then I'm going to leave one too. Because some people just don't like being first. So see if you can actually entice your people to become conversationalists by giving them the social path to do so. Some people just are afraid of being first. So take on an experiment and do a graffiti path.
Now, you're talking there about asking friends and people to come to your blog and essentially be the first people to comment. I'll be honest, blogging isn't my #1 business. As I said before, I'm over on social media, so I've never really explored, but I have heard of things called blogging networks, blogging syndicates, that kind of stuff. How important is it that maybe you start looking into that if you really want blogging to be a major part of your business? Because do those people all kind of come together and support each other and go around and comment on each other's blogs? Is that how that works?
So there's different kinds of bloggers. There's one particular kind of blogger called the frugal blogger or the coupon blogger that they post deals and coupons all the time. And in this group of people, they'll post 20, 60, 80 times a day blog posts. Here's a deal at Target, here's one at Kmart, here's one at Amazon, here's a sale, there's a sale, here's something free, here's something off. So since they're always trying to entertain their audience with deals, and they all know that they can't possibly find them all, they have this informal network amongst themselves. And they're constantly taking content from one blog and putting it on their own. And they say something like, hey, I got this over at SusieCoupon.com. It's a great deal on Amazon. And then Susie sees that the person actually posted something there and had a link and it brought people back. So they have this really interesting, loose relationship among them all where it's like totally acceptable to take content, put it on your own site, credit it, and it's almost like this great handshake. Not every type of blogger does this, but the frugal coupon bloggers do it to the extreme. And they do it all the time, several times a day. They're always posting. And what that does is it also creates all these links between each other. So now they're all relevant for the different things. It's like this big giant network of, kind of like bamboo trees, how they're all connected underneath. So a lot of people do that. Now, other people in other niches where that isn't really something you do, you don't like take content from one blog and put it on another and just say, hey, I got this over there. For most of the time, that's just not acceptable at all. And for those type of bloggers, I recommend that you do a blog matrix where you find 5 or 6 people who have a related audience. Now, it doesn't work if you don't have the same kind of audience, whether it's dads or moms or kids or moms who are 25 years old or whatever it is. You want to find people who have a similar audience. And then for 6 weeks, each person in the group helps to promote one other person in the group. So for 5 weeks, someone else is promoting you. They're either putting tweets out and tweeting your stuff or Facebooking or leaving comments on your blog. But all of a sudden, you get to share the traffic from all each other's blogs because you're all helping each other. And the only time that works is when somebody isn't selfish. If you have 5 people or 6 people who really want to help each other, it works great. And support each other, and then that includes links, and that includes people are tweeting, and there's all this kind of social love that works out fantastically. It always breaks down when there's one person in the group who's like, yeah, I'm going to get promoted for 5 weeks and I'm not going to do anything, and then it sort of breaks down. So you kind of have to find the 5 people that really would be that really want to help you be successful as much as you want to help them be successful. And then the other type of blog relationship that I really, really love is what I call the ladder of value. And that is, you have to figure out where does your blog fit in the life of your customer. And I normally use a photography example, but if your site is all about how to use photography filters to make starbursts, to make different colored suns, sunsets, if that's what you do, is you teach filters, then you should take a look at your customer's life as a whole. Because at one point in time, your customer was looking for how to choose a camera. And the next time was how to use the buttons of the camera. And then they did how to take landscapes. And then they did, how to do the rule of thirds. And then they came to you and they learned how to do filters. And then they came to someone else and they learned how to do portraiture. And then somebody else how to actually develop film. Now, if you can actually draw that out, you can draw out the life of your customer and find the different people who serve the different parts of your customers' lives, then you can create almost like a joint venture partnership with the different levels. Like the guy who's teaching how to choose a camera, you can say, hey, you have a great crowd who's learning how to choose a camera. I have a product on how to use filters. I'd love to work with you on that. And the guy who's teaching how to choose a camera, all of those. Wait, let me say that again. The guy who's teaching like how to do portraiture, like the very top of the echelon, how to develop film, his crowd actually has kids. So the guy who teaches how to choose a camera, he can say, hey, look, you've got a great crowd up there that's doing portraiture. Can we do a message, where we talk to their kids? Like, hey, do any of your kids are interested in getting photography like you? Check out my buddy's site. He teaches how to choose today's camera. So you can create this relationship amongst people who serve your audience at different levels in their life cycle of becoming an expert. So for me, those are 3 different ways that bloggers can work together to support, promote, and help bring traffic to each other.
You talked, when you were talking there, you talked very specifically about the niches. When you were going through the photography example, you had very specific, this guy's going to do filters, and this guy's going to do the portraiture, and this guy's going to do this. How important is that when blogging? How important is it to be really quite specific about what you're talking about?
It's not as important to be specific as it is to know exactly what it is that you do. So if you are the guy who serves the whole thing, your photography, you've got the how to choose a camera post, and you've got the how to do filters product, and you've got the portraiture product, then you just need to know that you're serving the audience from beginning to end, and that is your niche, the audience. And within that, you actually have the little niches. You have the how to do, how to use filters product. And that product, if you think about it on your own, that product needs to pre-sell how to do portraiture. It needs to, pre-sell the idea that you're moving the people from one thing to the next. So it's not as important to be as niche as, how to do filters, but it's important that you understand what it is that you actually do. Whether you do the niche or whether you do the whole thing, you really need to know what purpose do you serve in your customers' lives.
Would you say it's more difficult to serve customers if you've got a really broad blog? There's a kind of a 2-pronged attack here, isn't it? You can either say, okay, you've got a much broader audience, so therefore hopefully you could get more traffic, or you could say, you've got a much broader audience, therefore it's going to be more difficult to target the traffic.
So that question kind of is a double-edged sword, because you can point to TechCrunch, that is like everything electronic, or Amazon, that's everything on the planet. Or you can look at, one guy who that's all he does is teach you how to use Photoshop. So from a difficulty standpoint, it kind of comes down to resources. The most successful people have a single goal and they go after that goal. So the Photoshop guy, the guy who's teaching you how to use Photoshop, when he wakes up in the morning, he doesn't have to decide whether he's going to talk about picking the right camera or portraiture or landscape or whatever. He can totally focus on Photoshop. And then there's X number of buttons and things that you can do in it, and he can take them on one by one, and he can totally be the expert. And the path to expert, the narrower you are, is faster. Compare the people who have 2 blogs to the people who have 1 blog. And if you got to decide every day which blog you're going to work on, you're never going to get to the end. But if you can just take one all the way to profit and then work on the other one, you're going to go much faster. So in our as bloggers, most of us are single. I don't mean not married, but we're just one person on the team, and maybe we have a VA, maybe we have somebody else. So we have a limited number of resources, in terms of time and money and the ability to reach out and get things done. So if you're going to be the camera guy on the planet and you're going to teach everything there is, you have the exact number of hours resources as the guy who's going to teach Photoshop. That guy is going to have a complete, thorough project from beginning to end with email autoresponders and every little facet of it long before you get to become the expert in any tiny thing. And I say that at the same time I point out TechCrunch and these big sites, Huffington Post, that cover everything and do it really well. But the difference between the everything and the tiny guy is the resources. Are you willing to hire more people, use VAs, outsource? Are you willing to do that when you're going to go broad versus staying really tight? And it's almost just a matter of resources. And I tell people all the time that if our goal is to make $80,000 to $100,000 a year, U.S. dollars, if that's one of our goals, the guy who starts a Subway franchise, who spends $700,000 to buy the franchise, has exactly the same goal. Like, we are trying to achieve the same goal as that guy by getting a $7 domain and paying $20 in hosting a month and thinking, holy mackerel, I can't spend $25 a month on hosting, that'll break me. But think about that guy who starts a Subway sandwich franchise for $700,000, who's trying to achieve the same goal. He's used a different level of resources to get to the number that we want to get to. So that's kind of the question, the charge that you have is, what is your resources? What's your bandwidth? What are you willing to spend to get there? And if you don't really have a lot, then I would say in order to be successful, you better start small and then branch out from there.
All right, I want to just move on to, I'm just quickly looking at my notes here, onto the SEO side now, Dan, and just have a quick chat about some of the key kind of SEO and traffic drivers for a blog, because I know that over the last few years SEO has changed quite a lot, hasn't it? And from my point of view, it confuses me. How important are keywords now? How important is backlinking now? I know we hear from Matt Cutts quite a lot this word social signals, and the fact that he's talked about that they will give priority to authority blogs, and I'm guessing authority means blogs with lots of engagement and stuff happening. So just weighing SEO up now, can you give us a bit of a summary of what today's SEO really means for blogging?
Well, even though the algorithm changes for the search engines every once in a while, SEO has never changed. It's always the goal to get the most relevant website to the top. And the most relevant website is always at the top, no matter what the algorithm is. Sometimes they have to change the algorithm because something needs to be tweaked. But still, the number one guy is the number one guy. Now, think about the band U2. No matter what Google does, U2 is still going to be the top, like producing band in the world. No matter what they do, they still are creating great music. They're in magazines, they're doing interviews, they're on TV, they're touring. I mean, they're being relevant for their niche. They're just being awesome. So to me, SEO is just that. It's about being awesome. And when you can achieve that, then you will move up. I think I said in Minneapolis the other day on accident, I said, if you rock, you will rise, which people tweeted out like crazy. But I mean, it's really true. If you look at campbellskitchen.com, this is a site that, it's just recipes. And if you look up green bean casserole, they happen to be the number one result for green bean casserole most of the time. And if you go to their page, they got a picture of the green bean casserole, and then a couple of words, and then the recipe underneath it. And then right next to that are 4 other different types of green bean casserole recipes. So from a keyword standpoint, they've got a great picture, they've got a title, they've got the recipe using rich snippets, which you have to use, and they've got 4 related green bean casserole recipes. Now that means that those 4 recipes also have links back to that one, on Campbell's Kitchen. That means the green bean casserole recipe that we're looking at that's number 1 is also the number 1 most relevant recipe on campbellskitchen.com. Not just the internet, but on their own site. They've got all the links pointing to it. They've got traffic, from different places going to that one recipe. So, for any particular post that you write, I mean, is it even the most important post on your site about that topic? Or is there something else that's even more important? Or do you have 8 blog posts about the same topic that aren't even linking together? They're not all linked to one. They're not all bringing the juice to one place to prove to the rest of the internet that there actually is one most important post on your site. But the key to the whole thing is, first you have to have the right messaging on Twitter, on Facebook, in your tweets, in your blog posts. You have to bring the right people to your site, because it's the people, like Matt Cutt says, that are really going to rule the roost in the long term. If the messaging is right, if you're a recipe person and your Twitter description says, I bring you the best recipes at the lowest cost, and your Facebook says, I bring you the best recipes at the lowest cost, and that's what you provide, then you're going to start bringing in the right people, because the right people are the ones who are going to do the like, pin, tweet, post, Google thing. They're going to be the ones who press the buttons, and the buttons are the key. The comments, when you get people pressing the +1 button, it's a human saying, I love this. In fact, Jessica Turner, I forget what her site's name is, she wrote a post about Easter basket ideas. And the post was just fine for a while. It hovered in the top 3 pages of Google for a while. And then she pinned the picture 5 days before Easter. And 71,000 pins later, and it's the #1 post still for Easter basket ideas, because 71,000 humans said, I like this post. This is what I want to keep on my wall. And without that really engaging, cool picture, because she could have had anything, but she had a really cool picture, like that awesome factor. That awesome factor created the pin. The pin created that human interaction. The human interaction created the search result. So if you can bring in the right people, using your messaging, making sure that you're only writing topics that actually fit your whole world. Like if you're that photography filter guy and you just happen to decide you're going to write about Disneyland today, then you're bringing, when you tweet that, you're bringing in some Disneyland people who don't really care about photography, and that doesn't build the empire. Those people aren't going to plus anything on our site. They're just random. So if you stick to your topic and you got your messaging right in all these different places, and then when people come to your site, they not only see great content, but they see great related content. Now we've got the real workings of SEO. We've got keywords, because we're writing things people want to know about. We've got links internally. The fact that you have other posts internally linking to our main post, that's fantastic. That's good internal structure. And then when other people can see those related posts, now they feel like they're home. Like, wow, I didn't know there was this information about photography filters. This is great. I'm going to want this. I'm going to tweet this. I'm going to like this. I'm going to share this on Facebook. All those things. You get all of that working together, now you've got search engine optimization. Now you've got the whole universe working in your favor. Because no matter how much you think the Yoast plugin is your friend, 99 million other people are using the Yoast plugin. And that's not going to help you at all. It's a great little reminder that yes, you have your keyword in your title, and yes, you have your keyword in your description, and yes, you have your keyword in your body, but so does 99 million other people. You have to have that awesome factor. You got to have that, this content is great, and look at these other posts that are related and similar and supporting, and like I totally want to read that too. I'm going to like this, I'm going to tweet this, I'm going to share it. I love this site. That's when you have SEO. Everything else is just mediocre.
So what's some great strategies for getting other people to refer to your post? So for instance, backlinking. I know that backlinking's always been this kind of word that I hear bandied about a lot when it comes to blogging and SEO. And I know that years ago they used to have all these kind of black hat things that we don't even want to talk about now. But does distributing our blog posts on social networks, for instance, so if I go and post my link on Facebook, does that count as a backlink? If I'm linking to it from Twitter, does that count as a backlink? Or is it specifically having to go to other bloggers and say, can you post about my post? Does that count as a backlink? What are some of the strategies for raising our popularity that way?
So all of those things are backlinks. The Twitter post, the Facebook post, the other blogger. But you got to remember, everyone else is doing that too. So everyone's tweeting their things, and everybody's Facebooking their things, and if you're using IFTTT, then you're automatically sharing it to Instagram and Flickr and Food Gawker and Gentlemint and all these other places. So, but all of the top people that are competing for our keywords, we're all doing that. We're all tweeting it. We're all got it automated, and we're all doing the main things. So, that's not going to be the separation factor anymore. Those are great things to do, and if you stop doing those, you start to lose playing the game. Like everyone else is doing it, you can't go backwards. But so I suggest that you do things like create link bait. Create a great report that's free. that is just so chock full of information, other people in your niche just link to it. They just say, hey, go over and get that report. It's really good. Or infographics. Make a really cool infographic, and people will pin it, and they'll link to it, and they'll just want to share it. They'll post it on Facebook, and you'll actually get Facebook shares. The shares mean a lot more than just you posting it on your own page or you posting it in your group. You get 146 shares. You got some real interaction to that particular page. But people just don't share ordinary. They share awesome. So create a great post, create a great infographic, create a great series of pictures, create something that tells the how-to in a different way than anyone else has ever done before. On one of my wine sites, I created an infographic called the Chemical Composition of Wine, which I think is still #1 for chemical composition of wine. But I realized that, when I was looking for it, nobody else had ever done that before. Nobody had done the research to figure out what's actually in wine, what are the chemicals, how much is water. So I created that infographic, and people link to it regularly because there isn't another infographic like that. So try to just go that extra mile. Serve your audience in some way that they're just going to love, and other people will just link to it. You can go out and ask other bloggers. You can write guest blog posts. You can do things like this where you do a Google Hangout, and then when the person features it on their blog, there'll be a link to your page. I almost say write for 1 quarter of the year, write your blog post for a quarter, and then the second quarter just totally be about promotion. Take 1 blog post at a time and write a guest blog post about it. Go to Easy Articles and write an article about it. Tweet it. Use IFTTT to make sure that it gets to every social network. And then for a whole quarter, just do promotion of the stuff that you already wrote that's great and relevant. And then, in the third quarter, maybe you just do products. You're still going to write some blog posts now and again, but focus. Write promotion, products, whatever else you can do. And then maybe even the fourth quarter, it's all about the money. It's all about, what kinds of things can we do to bring in cash? Let's check our webmaster tools and see where our keywords are. Do just the business stuff. And then go back and write and promote and create products and then assess. And if you take that business mentality and really go after it, you'll have the shares and the likes and the links, and there's nothing. There's no way to really combat link bait, making something super awesome that people will link to.
Actually, that's really interesting, the way you've just kind of split the year up like that, because one of my questions was going to be about consistency. Lots of people will say, should I post every single day, or should I post on the same day every single week, and should I make sure that I've got a post going out every week throughout the year, or every 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. You've just kind of broken it up there and said, no, you're going to, do this for a quarter and then promote for a quarter and then maybe do this for a quarter. How important is getting some consistency in your posting on your blog, or is actually the promotion the more important element of that?
Well, both of those are really important. In fact, I make sure that my bloggers, we take all of their main keywords, their main, basically their nav bar and then their drop downs, and we plug all of those things into google.com/trends, because I want to see, when do people search for the different parts of your niche. Like Valentine's Day is clearly, January 3rd to February 14th, and then it dies that day. It's 100% drop off. Nobody searches for Valentine's Day on February 15th. Unlike Christmas, where people search for it a couple more days. If you set up your blog so that you don't post on February 15th, and your Valentine's Day post is still there, and then it's still there on the 16th, and it's still there on the 17th, it's not that you have a frequency problem. It's that you have a mindset match problem. You're no longer matching the mindset of your audience. Like Valentine's Day was light years ago, even if it was yesterday. The next day it's gone. I was like, what are you talking about? That was weeks ago. And then you'll say, no, it was yesterday. And I'm like, really, it was? It feels like forever ago. So it's not necessarily about frequency. It's about matching what your audience needs and making sure that you're in front of them when they need you to be in front of them. Now, when I talk about writing content for 1 quarter, that doesn't mean you're publishing content for 1 quarter. Let's write our Valentine's Day posts in October. Make sure that we have it all ready, and then they're going out on Valentine's Day. And let's think through. Excuse me. Let's think through our content, put together a plan, and then if that means scheduling out in the future, well, at least we're in that mode of content production, research, writing, and we're really going through that. I definitely want you to have new content published on your blog, once a week or even once every 2 weeks at the least. I wouldn't want you to do just once a month. You don't really have a blog at that point. You just have more of a website. You're no longer meeting the frequency rules of SEO. You still have to, have updated content. But that doesn't mean that you have to actually be doing it that day. You can do it months ahead of time. You can totally pre-plan. And one of the fantastic parts about pre-planning and going on to promotion is the idea that if you know what's coming, you have the ability to pre-sell it. Here in the United States, we have gym memberships that you can buy. You can go to a gym and work out, and you can pretty much do that anywhere. But on the counter of every gym is this calendar. And the calendar is always for the following month. So right now in November, I can go get the calendar for December. And then in December on the counter is going to be the calendar for January. And that's not just for your own personal use. That's to prevent you from quitting. Because when they can tell you that next month we're going to be doing this super fancy class using weights and buckles and steps and pedals, you're going to be like, ooh, I got to stick around for that because I can't quit this month. I want to take that class. If you have that same mentality from a promotion standpoint, if you know what you're going to be writing about next month and the month after that, you should be pre-selling it every month what's coming. Totally snowball your audience from one thing to the next. Don't let them just die, but totally tell them, what we're going to do next month? We're going to do just the sunrise filter, or we're going to do portraiture and low light, or we're going to do how to take action photos in October. You got to come back. Just those activities, that part of promotion, and if you can take a quarter and totally think through your whole promotion, then you're on a different level in terms of a blogger when you're pre-selling and then delivering and then pre-selling and then delivering and pre-selling and delivering, and you're spending, right brain, left brain, a whole quarter just write, research, write, and then publishing out while you promote. You're doing business focused minded activities, and you're no longer just a stay-at-home dad just writing a blog post. You're really thinking through things.
I literally, if you're watching this video right now, I want you to rewind literally the last 5-10 minutes, and I want you to watch that all over again, because that is one business strategy. If you follow that, your business will just leaps and bounds. We're talking, leaps and bounds.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So have you heard of a lady called Marie Forleo, actually, Dan?
Oh, yes.
Because I was watching a very, very successful video blogger, and I was watching an interview with her recently, and she was saying how she chunks all her videos. Everybody thinks that she sits and does these videos and they come out once a week, but actually she does them months in advance. They're chunked, they're done, she does 20 videos all in one go, and then they're promoted and published once a week through the year, and they're done months in advance. And so she knows exactly what's happening in her business over the next year.
And she had the most beautiful hair in that video, didn't she? Her hair in that video was unbelievable. Those big curls. I was like, wow, how come I don't have that hair? That is fantastic. Her hair was so good. I didn't even understand it. Is that drawn in? It's like Disney. Just big, giant curls and So what Marie Forleo is a great example of? There is no should, because Marie Forleo doesn't do ebooks. She delivers content in video. People will tell her they'll probably say, hey, you should do an ebook. And guess what? No, that's not the audience that she's cultivated. That's not what people want from her. They will put their email and name in for a video, not a ebook. So she is a great example of there is no should. Create something, be awesome, build it, and then just go with it.
Yeah, love that. There's really, I love this whole that there's no right or wrong. I think so many people look for a structure. I want a step-by-step structure I can follow where it's going to take me from where I am now to a successful blog. And I want the exact steps that I can take. But actually, there is no right or wrong with this. It's going to be whatever the steps are that's required for your audience to connect with you and want to consume what you're supplying and want to share it and get involved with everything that you're doing in your business.
Oh, that's so true. And there's example after example. Have you ever heard of Howard Stern here in the United States? He's a really pornographic radio disc jockey who's also on TV. I mean, this guy, you got to think from day one when he opens his mouth and talks about women's breasts or whatever he talks about. I'm sure there have been people every step of the way saying, dude, you need to tone it down because you're alienating like half the people listening to this radio station. But guess what happens when you alienate half the radio station for 23 years? You become Howard Stern with 50 million raving fans who love everything you say because that's the audience that you've created over the last 50 years. You've become yourself and you filtered out everyone who doesn't like what you have to say, and you're only left with the cream of the crop who just totally love you. There is no should right there. When people tell you, whoa, 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 don't be so controversial. You're gonna, like, people are gonna leave you. Yeah, guess what? They're gonna leave you, and in the end, you're gonna be left with awesome.
Absolutely. Be yourself. That's the message here, guys. But don't be afraid of your own voice. Be yourself. Okay,
Yeah.
Dan, I'm going to, I've got 4 more pages of questions, but we really have run out of time. You've given us such an amazing amount of information.
We
You're
have
good?
12 hours left. I still have like 11 hours to even catch up to where you are today. Like, I'm still in yesterday.
That's awesome then. Okay, well, I do have another question for you then. I'd like to talk to you about the difference between a brand and a public figure. Okay, so for instance, we talked about social signals and about, connecting with people. If you are somebody who, I talk a lot about being a public figure, and if you are somebody who perhaps wants to cultivate a brand, wants to build a brand as opposed to be the constant face of that brand, how important is it in blogging that there is a lot of you who is behind the business in your blog?
It's not important at all. It's only important if that is the goal in the end. I mean, one of the problems with being a personality is that your exit strategy options are fewer. If you are the reason that people are coming, and then you decide to sell, the buyers of your business will have a harder time trying to figure out what it is that they're buying when you are the goodwill. So, when you brand yourself, that is one of the hurdles that you must overcome if you can envision an exit strategy at some point. Now, when you're trying to go from personality to brand, I think that you could do that quite easily by, instead of branding yourself, is branding your information. So, if you have a product, actually giving the product a name, and giving that product a logo, and giving that product a look and a feel that you use consistently throughout your site. Kind of like PepsiCo has, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, and all those different products. Each one, has its own brand and feel, but PepsiCo is really the driving force behind everything. And Chrysler had Lee Iacocca at the helm. He was the public figure, but Dodge and Jeep, and these products, they had their own brand and feel and personality and drive behind them. When you could create that in your information, in the solutions that you offer, then you can create an overall brand, a feeling associated with the information that you're giving. You can still be the driving force and the energy behind it, but you actually have to physically assign characteristics and values to something in order to brand it, because a brand really is a reflection of the perception of the people who know it exists. And when you provide that perception by giving it a logo and a color and a look and a feel and give them what to expect when they buy it, then you create the brand. And if you have a bevy of products that all are branded, then your company really has a brand that you can sell and you can monetize and you can build. But you can still be the Lee Iacocca. You can still be the Michael Jordan of the Bulls. But you just can't brand yourself as Pepsi. There's got to be something attributed. There's got to be some liquid in that can, or there's got to be some content in that product. Then you can brand something. Otherwise, you're always going to be an individual who has a personality issue trying to figure out who he really is.
Okay, and how important is it that you get your blog kind of branded I was asked this question just this morning, actually, by somebody who said to me, Joe, should I wait? I've got lots of content and I know what I want to say, but I haven't quite thought out exactly what I want my header to look like, and I haven't quite come up with a logo. Do I wait? Do I actually get all that done and get my logo and my header and everything and then start blogging, or can I actually start putting out my articles now as I'm doing all that stuff?
Oh, I would say go, go, go. Put your articles out, because when it comes to logo design and branding and header, you're going to change 15 times no matter what you come up with tomorrow. And a lot of times that perfect logo, that lightning is not going to strike your brain tomorrow, whether you want it to or not. It's going to come 3 months from now or 6 months from now or even a year from now, and you're going to finally go, oh, I totally get it. I know exactly what colors I need to have. Just go, go, go. Start producing the information and the feel that you're going to eventually have, the what you really want. But don't wait. I mean, how long could it be before you actually figure it out? There's really no point in waiting for it all. Just go.
Absolutely. Great. Okay, so we've figured out what we want to write about. We've started writing. We're out there. We're now distributing. We're promoting. We're publishing. We're telling people what's coming up. We're starting to get a bit of traction, a little bit of an audience. Now, how do we actually turn that into cold, hard cash?
Well, cash always starts with the audience that you created. So your messaging and your content creates an audience. That audience is willing or not willing to put their money down for certain things. And then the other side of that is that audience is also traffic. So traffic itself can be monetized. So let's just start with something easy like AdSense. Now, you don't usually see Google AdSense on a law firm blog or a professional services website. They don't usually advertise with that particular medium. But on a blog itself, it's a great form of ancillary revenue. Is becoming part of Google's ad network. Now, the time that it doesn't make sense is when you have decided to monetize with AdSense, which is a traffic strategy, but your blog is not commercial. Now, when I say that, if your blog is all about the weather in California, the weather in New Zealand, the weather in Russia, if your blog is all about the weather, it just so happens that no company on the planet is bidding on the keywords weather. They don't think that somebody's wallet is on the table when somebody searches for weather. So if your blog is all about non-commercial subject like weather, or like the benefits of vitamin C, or different kinds of grass, or the different kinds of clouds, if your blog is non-commercial and you try to apply a commercial monetization source like AdSense, you end up monetizing with a mismatch. You get like 2 cent and 3 cent clicks, and you don't really ever make money no matter how much traffic you have. So you have to match what you've built to the monetization options available. If your blog is totally non-commercial, then I would suggest that you use something like custom sidebars, because occasionally you're going to write about a commercial subject and you can put AdSense in that sidebar. But otherwise, you're going to waste real estate without that. So don't put AdSense on non-commercial topics. And even if you have if you're using AdSense on a regular blog, custom sidebars can cut out AdSense on any blog post that's non-commercial. Like when you talked about when you skinned your knee, and there's just no way for Google to figure out what ad to put there. But then you have further options, information options. You have the option to sell ebooks. Like the site findingjoy.net, which is all about, she writes stories about motherhood. She writes Dear Mom letters and how great it is to be a courageous mom and how valuable it is to appreciate the little moments of being a mom. She's taken some of her blog posts and turned them into an ebook. She sells the ebook for $8 a pop, $8 US, and she sold 2, 3, 4,000 of these ebooks because she's created an audience of people who just love these letters, love this feeling that she gives them, loves this emotion that she instills that yes, you are worth something. And then taking those and putting them into ebook is like is a reflection of the demand and love they've already shown her in blog comments. If you see a lot of blog comments, you can sell content. And then there's a Sunday School Ideas website in the U.S. I can't think of the name of it, but every Wednesday they put out a different idea for Sunday school teachers to teach at church Sunday school. and they've created a membership out of it. It's a membership site, and it's $2.95 a month, which is just this tiny bit of money. It's like a sandwich at a lunch place, and they have 10,000 members. That's a huge number. $2.95 a month times 10,000. That particular strategy, which is called micro continuity, is giving people this tiny little bit of information, not a huge value set, but just enough, just exactly what it is that they need, and just charging them a pittance. And then when you grow that to volume, you can really turn out some big dollars. That site that I mentioned before, Young House Love, where they get 125,000 people a day, they have turned that community into money by finding sponsors. People, companies like Shades of Light, who sponsor Young House Love, they see the value that Young House Love has created by bringing these 125,000 people together every day and talking about home improvement projects. So this Shades of Light, people came to them and said, look, we want to be in front of your audience. We're willing to sponsor you. We can give you ads in your sidebar. You can create your own line of paints and colors and products on our site, and we'll actually leverage your name on our site while you leverage our name on your site. So that community that they built has turned into sponsorship money, which is another way to monetize your site. So that covers ads and membership and products and sponsorship, which I think are the four biggies, aside from actually selling services like consulting and do-it-yourself things that are a little bit different from blogging, but blogging does provide the platform from which you can be considered an expert, and then you can sell your time and your services.
And what do you think is most effective? Putting actual ads directly on your blog, which click through maybe to a page showing people what you're offering, whether it be a product, whether it be a service, or actually having some way for them to leave you their details for you to then follow up via perhaps an email sequence?
Well, those are not separate strategies. You always want to value your real estate for what it's worth. So if a service client to you is worth $10,000, over the lifetime of them being part of a customer, which will take you a while to figure out the lifetime value of your customers. You can't expect that today. You can figure out the lifetime value today, but you will know that it will change over time. So if the lifetime value of your customer is worth $10,000, then there is no sense on the planet that you would ever put AdSense there for $1.58 a click and take the spot of something that would produce you $10,000 in the long run. So it's important to figure out what it is, where it is that we make money. If it's services, then we need to know what is the real value of that service and compare that from a real estate percentage to where should that be on the site. Now, one of the things I love telling people to do is to set up your AdSense dashboard correctly, to really, put your URLs in there so you know exactly which pages are paying you money, and then, use your tags to show exactly which ads are making you money. Because when you know that, you know exactly where the eyeballs on your site. The eyeballs on every site are different based on the colors and the configuration. It's called the pattern disconnect. So what you want to know is, where are the eyeballs? Are they in the top right sidebar position, or are they in the fourth sidebar position? Once we know where the eyeballs are and what each spot on our site is worth, then we can start to figure out, okay, if my eyeballs are always in the fourth position, what needs to go there? Do I need to, instead of an AdSense ad, do I need to put an actual advertisement to my highest paying AdSense page and drive traffic to another page? Or do I need to drive it to my email subscription list, because I know over the course of the lifetime of a subscriber, I'm going to make $900 in affiliate income? Or do I drive people to my services contact us page, because I know when they fill that out, they're going to be worth $10,000 to me? You really have to understand where the money is on your site before you can decide what is the money on your site. And then over time, you can really figure out where does the money come from? What is my best dollar spent? Maybe it's my email subscription list, because over time you offer 28 products and you make $900. Then you need to really put a lot of emphasis into driving people to that list and sacrifice the $2 and $3 clicks that you could be getting through AdSense, because in the long term that your list is really going to pay off. Once you figure out what the spots are worth, then you can figure out where to put them, and then you can really concentrate on how do I actually make money.
Do you know off the top of your head if there are any other tools that can help you determine where the eyeballs are on your website? If you don't do AdSense, for instance, are there any tools online that can help you find out where those eyeballs are going?
There's nothing as good as AdSense because it actually requires a human click. There's places like Crazy Egg that offer heat maps that kind of show you. It basically shows you the mouse movement. As you're moving down the page, it shows you where somebody's mouse goes, and very seldom does your eyes go a different way than the mouse. So it's pretty good. But a click actually shows interest as well. So somebody's there and their eyeballs are there long enough to actually see and read something and then click it. Crazy Egg is best, and then I would say the third best thing is to send an email to everyone you know and just ask them, load my site up and tell me what you see first and what you see second, and then email me back. Just get people to actually tell you what do they see, where do their eyeballs go. One of the little tricks that you can do is you bring your website up, maybe go to your local cellular, wireless cellular store and bring your website up on every single device and see what it looks like. But if your blog post shows up and in your blog post is a picture, and that picture is just hovering right above the fold, so you can just barely see the top of it, or maybe you can see the top half, then you know that human behavior is going to dictate that people on your site are going to see that picture and they're going to automatically scroll down the page. So when they scroll down, you should do the same. Scroll down and then look at your page from a monetization standpoint. Now that I've scrolled down and I can see the whole picture, has my ad that was above the fold, has it disappeared? Is it unable to be engaged with again? Has my top sidebar button disappeared? Is it unable to be engaged with again? Figure out, where are the eyeballs once people have done that first activity, that's scrolling down, and then try to figure out, where should I put my information? Right side, left side, red color, white color ad. You could kind of figure it out for yourself and test. You don't really need AdSense, but AdSense sure is good.
Okay, great. Lovely strategy for us there to have a look at that. Thanks for that. So just going to the kind of the back end of the blog now and talking about plugins, is it true, I just want this from your point of view, is it true that the more plugins that you load onto your blog, probably the slower that your blog is going to run? Is that actually a truism?
Well, when your site loads, when somebody types your site name into the search bar, the browser has to go read the code and grab all the elements. And you can use a service like pingdom.com/tools. And you can type your website right in there and press enter, and it will show you the exact order in which all the little pieces of your site loads, and it will tell you exactly the time associated with each part. Plugins can take time. Sometimes plugins don't take any time at all. But for instance, like a Facebook widget, which is a plugin, the browser actually has to go to Facebook, grab the widget, and bring it back. So that activity of going and bringing it back takes longer than it just populating from your database. Anything in an iframe, for example, if you have a page that has an iframe on it, like the browser has to go to their website and get the thing and bring it back into the iframe. Plugins, as they multiply, they actually conflict with each other, and one operation stops another operation from happening, which even creates longer load time. So your goal is never to reduce the load time. Your goal is to serve your audience. I mean, the lower the load time, the better. But some things, like maybe you need the Facebook widget. Maybe that is your social proof, and that's what drives your business, and that's what gets people to see, hey, look, there's 99,000 other people who like this blog. But maybe that's also the one thing that's slowing your blog down. You could take it off and increase the speed of your load and maybe even increase your SEO. But what if your return on investment goes down? What if fewer people actually take advantage of your services? So the goal is never to reduce the time. It's to be the fastest time and the most effective blog for your audience. But yeah, plugins can definitely slow your site down. Not every single one. But depending on what it does, it can take a toll.
And are there any, just from a general blogging standpoint, are there any plugins that a blog should absolutely have? Is there anything that kind of benefits a blog that any blogger, needs to think about? Yeah, I definitely need to go and get that specific plugin, or is it really dependent on your blog, your niche, what you're doing?
Well, like I start every sentence, there is no should.
There
In
is no
any
should. There is
there,
no should.
there is no should. There is no blog plugin that you need. No blog plugin whatsoever. Everything can be coded into the, if you have a good WordPress guy, any function that you want can actually be coded right in which case it's no longer an add-on. It's no longer something the browser has to go read and figure out. So there isn't any plugin that you absolutely need. And then from a niche standpoint, you can actually Google your word and the word plugins, like food plugins or history plugins or finance plugins, and then there's going to be like 1,000 blog posts that say, the top 10 plugins for finance bloggers and the top 10 plugins for sports bloggers, and there's just it's unfathomable how many there are. So I mean I would do that just for your niche, just to see what kind of options are available. I would say going forward that paying attention to Facebook Open Graph and Google Rich Snippets is going to be extremely important. If you don't have your Open Graph set up right, you're not going to get the visibility that you could if you did have it set up correctly. So making sure that you're using the Facebook debugger to see how Facebook is viewing your website when a link goes on there, and then correcting those actions, and making sure that you're following the rules on schema.org and you're doing the rich snippets like they want you to do. Those two things, I think, in the end, are going to kind of require plugins, because nobody wants to add all that code to their blog, and it's just really, it's really a lot. And something like the zip list plugin for recipes, you just put your recipe in there, and it adds all the rich snippets that you need. I mean, all the code. So those are going to become more and more popular and more prevalent as rich snippets becomes more and more critical to your success. So I would mostly pay attention to those two things. Facebook Open Graph, Google Rich Snippets, and then Twitter and Pinterest also have their own microdata language.
And that's per post, right? You have to do your Open Graph metadata and your rich snippets. That's literally per post. It's a different, because that's what's going to show up when people find the different posts on the search engines and on Facebook, right?
Yeah, something like WP Open Graph sets the tone for your entire blog, like a default. But it also gives you the option, at least in WordPress, to change that per post. So you can change the featured image that shows up when somebody shares your blog on Facebook. So you can do that by post, but you don't have to. It can be the default, your logo and your default description and your default title, no matter what it is that people post. With Google Rich Snippets, it's not per post; it's per object. So like your address, no matter where it is on the site, needs to have the address code for schema.org. I just can't put it in one place unless it's like your footer, and that's showing up in every page. But it's pretty much per object. So that's many things per post, but also, oftentimes many things within a post.
Okay. And authorship. Can we just touch on authorship as well? Because Google authorship, of course, is now hugely important. Is it to blogging?
So I don't know the answer to this. I have removed authorship from my site. And I've done that because I've been reading some articles that Huffington Post put out and some of the bigger sites that have seen a traffic drop after adding authorship. And the traffic drop wasn't because they lost rankings, because their keywords are still ranked in the same place. So right now the current thinking is that when your picture shows up next to a blog post article and somebody doesn't know who you are, they're actually less likely to click it because your picture is there, because you're a stranger. Like your face isn't actually bringing any relevance to the post. So that information for me, sat on the heels of some other information that I got when I went and met with Morgan James Publishing about a book deal that we were doing with a client. The guy at Morgan James who published Guerrilla Marketing by J. Conrad Levinson and some of the other popular books, even Joel Combs' books, he said that he will not let an author put their photo, their face on the front of the book, unless the author, is somebody like Mel Gibson or Whoopi Goldberg, or a face that everyone on the planet knows, because the book needs to be about the topic, not about that person. And if nobody really knows that person, they don't buy the book when that person's face is on the cover. I mean, if you've never heard of the guy, like you don't even like your eyes don't even stop when it graces the cover. So those two bits of information I got around the same time, and it made me think maybe I won't add Google authorship to my site. In the same breath, Google is really trying to create some sort of influence number associated with people. So when your blog has all kinds of comments and Google can see that you're number one in your niche, and then you write a guest blog post somewhere, that Google authorship on that guest post, which is your face, is actually going to give that even more oomph. It's going to move it higher in the search engines because you are a person of power. So what I'm trying to figure out is, for myself, is can that power be instant later, or does it have to build over time? And if it's true that people aren't going to click on my blog post because my unknown face is associated with it, can I forego it for now and then pick it up later when it's evened out and everyone's unknown face is associated with their blog post? I personally haven't decided yet. I don't have authorship on there, but I feel like the answer is still in the air, and I just haven't been able to grasp it.
Wow, you're the first person I've spoken to who's just challenged that slightly, who's just saying, you know what, not sure actually how important that is yet. And I suppose that's really where we are with Google Plus and the whole kind of how that's going to work in the future. I mean, what's your thoughts on how important Google Plus is to our strategy, our business strategies moving forward in promotion?
I think that any question that starts that way also starts with the paradigm that we must believe Google will be number one in the future, and that if we don't follow the rules today, then we won't be able to play the game later. I think that paradigm is a little bit limited in scope because Kmart and MySpace and Sears, all the big dogs have fallen over time. I personally think Facebook is 2 years away from collapse. And I'm not exactly sure where Google stands in that particular point of view, but there's a pretty good chance that the domain name that will one day kill Google, either hasn't been bought or was just bought today. I mean, we just don't know. So the question itself assumes that Google will always be number one, and that we have to play the game in order to stay. And if we view the world with those particular glasses, then yes, we have to do the Google Plus things. We have to follow the rules. We have to do all this Google stuff. We got to play that particular game. And I'm not against that in any way. I mean, it would be kind of silly business strategy not to sort of think that way. But I would also challenge us to ask that question a different way, and that is, what is it going to take to do business tomorrow, knowing that what's out there just hasn't arrived yet? And maybe, I mean, if MySpace had a MySpace Plus 5 years ago and we were all getting MySpace authorship, I mean, would that really matter today? I mean, if you have 50,000 fans on MySpace, do you have anything? So, I mean, for me, it's just the paradigm of the question that makes me think maybe we're just not asking the right question. We're answering the right question. I mean, we got to do things we got to do, but Google Plus may be gone in 5 years. And then how much business energy will we have staked on something that will not have mattered?
So what do you think, what is it that we need to, what is it going to take for us to do business tomorrow if all of a sudden there were no Facebook and if there weren't any Google? What's the most important element of our business that we need to be doing right now in order to be able to continue doing business tomorrow and the day after and the day after?
Well, if you talk to a brand, they're going to tell you that it's branding. But even the CEO of PepsiCo said recently that no matter how many millions of dollars they spend in Super Bowl advertising, they do not sell more Pepsi in the next 30 days. So for me, the answer is always list building. And is generic and as numerical as that sounds, what I'm really trying to say is if you're going to spend an ounce of time creating an audience, you should really have a way to bring them back to your site. You should find a way to be able to contact them, to be able to interact with them, in something that you own. Not a Facebook page of 50,000 people may just be as important as a MySpace group with 50,000 people five years from now. So for me, it's critical that you take all the energy and effort that you put into this traffic and acquiring and engaging and entertaining and getting 1+s and all that stuff, and put it into retaining that list. How do we move them to a place where I can actually invite them? Because the day that Facebook goes away is the day that Instagram Supra comes alive, and now it's something new. And I want to be able to move my people and introduce them to my presence on that new platform. And without my personal ability of my own ownership to do that, I have put my business success in the hands of others, and I relied on hope to be successful. And as far as my community goes, everyone knows that I say that hope is not a marketing plan, and I sell shirts that actually say hope is not a marketing plan, and anything that involves relying on someone else is hope.
That's absolutely fantastic. So you still think that email marketing is as important and as effective as it always was?
No, I didn't say email marketing.
No.
I said you must have the ability to capture and connect with your audience. I think the youth of today are using email far and far less than we ever thought they would. And that's because when email came out in 1991, we didn't have handheld computers. We needed an asynchronous way to talk to each other. We needed a way where you could deliver a message to me, and when I got home from work, I could log into my AOL account and I could see what that message said. Today, that's not the case. Kids of today are using the text. They're using Instagram and Snapchat and all these other ways to communicate with each other. We need to be able to communicate with them. We need to stay ahead of the ways that we can capture and communicate. Email is kind of our go-to source, and that's going to change over time. Maybe it's going to be put your phone number in here because we're going to text you information. Where that goes, is up to you. You have to figure out for your own community and your own audience where that's headed. If you're totally serving the senior niche, then stick with email because that's what they use. But if you're serving the youth of today, and the youth of today are not on Facebook, then you've got to figure out a new way. And you need to own that way. And how you do it, I don't really know, whether it's text or something that hasn't even been invented yet. You just have to figure out how are you going to connect and stay connected to your audience.
Fantastic answer. I must admit, the minute you said that one of the most important things is building your list, I immediately thought, okay, well, what's the main way of essentially being able to connect with people where it's not on a third-party platform like Facebook or like Google? Because of course nowadays you can invite people to come through into your email list. You can also invite them to join Skype groups. You can invite them to join Facebook communities, Google Plus communities, LinkedIn communities, all of that kind of stuff, and obviously connect with your audience across all of these various networks. And when you said, gosh, one of the most important things really is building that list and staying connected with your audience and owning that, then my first thought went to, well, that's got to be email right now, hasn't it? And so moving forward, I suppose it's just having that ability to be able to move people from one platform to another as platforms change and evolve and move into different things. Is that what you're saying, Dan?
Yeah, and email is a great way, at least today, because all the functionality exists and it's easy to set up opt-in boxes and stuff. It's easy to grab that information, but don't think that you're done grabbing information when you've asked for that. You have the ability to do a giveaway and ask them to put their text in there, and capture their text address even after you have their email address. Don't stop asking for information. In fact, with our blogging concentrated events, when you register, because when you go online and you go to bloggingconcentrated.com and you say you're going to go to our next event and you pay your money, you only put your name and email in. But when you actually come to the event, I'm not done capturing information. I ask for your Twitter handle when you register. That's part of the registration process. I want to actually add your Twitter handle to my account of you. Now, later on, we might do giveaways where, even at the event itself, where I tell everyone to text me and I give them a text address and say, like, win a prize, and then, I randomly choose the prize and text back the winner. that enables me to get the email, the name, the Twitter handle, and now the text. I now have 4 pieces of information that wasn't arduous or painful for the customer to provide to me. I mean, I provided value in exchange for it. And over time, you're going to need the different ways of getting a hold of people. We just don't exactly know where things are going. I mean, it might just be text at some point. Email just might be kind of silly. Who knows? But don't stop asking for information. Just use different ways to get it.
And of course, we forget about the physical address as well. There's always, getting people's being able to communicate with people actually by sending them something physically through the post. With this online world we live in, we kind of forget that element of things now.
Definitely.
Of course.
And using a service
fantastic.
like Infusionsoft.
So, what do you think?
I was going to say, using a service like Infusionsoft, you actually it actually prompts you to ask for that, because it actually has the ability to send postcards through the product. Sometimes it actually takes technology to remind you of the things you should be doing. But phone calls like this, and hopefully you're taking notes, you'll actually start to do that too. And I regret that I have not been as efficient as I should be at getting addresses. And I am actually in the process now of reaching out to everyone who went to Blogging Concentrated in 2013 and asking for their addresses now, which sucks. I mean, it's too bad I didn't think of it before, because I'm actually going to send them a T-shirt, as a promotional material to say thank you for coming. But I want to send it in the mail. I don't have the addresses, so now I have to go through this arduous process of asking. In which case, I'll have them in the end.
So, bearing in mind we've kind of gone off on this fantastic chat about what may happen with some of the social media sites. What are your general thoughts on the future of blogging? What do you think is going to happen over the next 5, 10, 20 years in the blogger sphere?
I hate to even postulate really what's going to happen. I would like to see blogging become more of a part of every business strategy. I feel like the search engines are kind of gonna dictate that we all do that, because they really want constant updated and fresh content to return as the most relevant result. And I think we all sort of have to go that way. But if you're 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, you're using Instagram and Snapchat as your way to get information, and Reddit and BuzzFeed. And these are a different form of information that we're not currently wholly invested in as a culture. So how do we adjust to where they are now? I mean, are the youth of today going to, all of a sudden they're going to grow up and they're going to like reading long articles? And are we, at our age, are we going to all of a sudden start getting the newspaper again? It's almost like, where does it go? Because 20 years from ago, somebody might have asked the same question of what is the future of newspapers? And to say that they're going to to boom and be great and every household in America would get 8, somebody probably postulated that. But now the only thing that we use them for is to fill the trash can, because they just don't stop giving them to us. So where do blogs fit? With Google Reader going away and Instagram and Snapchat and those things coming around, it's like anybody's game. Where is it headed? The guy who predicts it right, he's gonna sell a lot of books, and the rest of us are gonna be on his heels trying to catch up. But we're flying to the moon pretty soon too. It's just really hard to tell.
Yeah. Well, we have talked about an awful lot of stuff over the last couple of hours, Dan, what I love about talking to you, what I've really enjoyed about this interview, is that you clearly love your subject. For somebody to turn around an hour in and say, I got time, let's go on, I want to carry on talking about it, I just think is absolutely phenomenal. And from the last couple of hours, I want the guys watching this to realize that's what going the extra mile is. That's what loving your craft is about. Wanting to talk about it, wanting to teach others and educate and inspire and pass that message on to people really is what it's all about. If you could kind of, I know we've gone through so many subjects over the last couple of hours, Dan, but if you could kind of précis down to a nice little summary of, say, 3 or 4 things that are my audience, who are people who are trying to just build their blogs up, build those leads, generate that traffic, and promote their products and services, and just kind of really grow their businesses. If you could give them 3 or 4 key tips, leave them with today, that they should be going out there, not should, that they could be going out there and doing to build their blogs and grow their traffic, what would those key tips be?
Well, the first one is burnout is real. If you aren't doing something that you really enjoy, you're going to face burnout at some point in your blogging career. You're going to realize that I've written about all these keywords that I researched. I don't know what else people could be looking for. And, you know, people who love their thing, they don't ever say that. I mean, there's actually people who've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since, 1983, and they still have stuff to talk about. I mean, I could talk about one thing in that particular game, but the people who love it, they can still talk about it 29, 40 years later. So for me, burnout is a real thing, and you really need to consider that when you start, embark upon your career or even continue your career from today. What is it that you don't think you'll have a problem talking about 20 years from now because you just love it? And then the second thing is, if you're listening to this, you've already decided that this is more than a hobby. So if you don't understand the numbers, then you're not operating like a business. As I said, the Subway guy spent almost $800,000 to get a franchise to run a Subway restaurant. And he's paying attention to his toaster cost and his dollar per hour on the floor and his dollar per square foot, and his lease. He knows all the numbers. And in fact, I tell people all the time, I used to do commercial development for a pharmacy company here in the States called Walgreens. And they know simple things like they know the reflectivity number associated with the tile floor. They know that different tile floors produce different reflectivity. And they can judge how much product is sold on the bottom shelf of each stanchion based on which stores have better reflectivity and the light shines up on that bottom shelf. Like, they study every facet of their businesses. If you're really truly moving forward as a business, I mean, there are things that you should definitely know. You should know the bounce rate from Facebook as compared to Twitter. You should understand what happens to the traffic when it comes from Pinterest. You should know what every pixel is worth on your page. From an AdSense perspective, from a paid subscription perspective, you should know the numbers inside and out. You should know exactly how many people are going to opt into your email when you send out something on Facebook, or what is the percentage when you say it's a newsletter versus a guide. You can't just operate as a lone college hack blogger. I mean, this is a serious business. There's no way you're going to get to the point of financial freedom or even making an annual living from blogging without just knowing what it is that makes you money and how to operate. In fact, if you're using AdSense and you don't know what is your highest paying AdSense page, then shouldn't you be directing traffic to that page regularly? Shouldn't there be an ad in your sidebar sending people to that page? I mean, can't you adjust your own income using the data? So aside from burnout and understanding your numbers, then I would say the last part is knowing that in order to grow, in order to do what you're going to do and to take vacations and to spend time with your family, you have to understand leverage and systems. You have to be able to figure out what it is that you don't like doing that's not making you money so that you can give it to somebody who can do that, to basically reduce burnout but make you more efficient. You have to figure out that search engine traffic is a leverage. If you're totally reliant on you on Facebook and Twitter every day, then you're not actually building a business that can sustain itself. So you have to find little ways that you can leverage your time, your systems, your procedures, your traffic, your data, and your money. If you're not doing those things, then any of those 3 things, then your likelihood of long-term success is lower.
Fantastic. Well, Dan, it's been amazing. in the last couple of hours, I feel like we haven't just been talking about blogging, we've been talking about business strategy. You know, the different things that you've suggested, the things you've talked about, the fact that there is no should, that there's no real right and wrong, the fact that you need to do what is required in order to connect with your audience, in order to give the customer and meet the needs of your customer, all of those sorts of things. What you've just discussed then about knowing the numbers. I mean, we're talking about business strategy as a whole here, not just blogging. This has been a 2-hour business mastermind session, and it's been absolutely phenomenal. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I've really taken so much of it on board for myself as well as for the audience. So it's been fantastic. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me. It's very, very nice to be all the way over there in Thailand to actually talk to you. It's excellent.
So people can go to find out more about Dan and what he's doing. Then his main site is lettersfromdan.com. Okay, that's the kind of hub, if you want, lettersfromdan.com. And if you are interested in his live events, I know he's just finished for this year, but he's going to be going on tour again next year, then do also check out bloggingconcentrated.com. And those links will be below this video. So you will be able to just go straight away below this video and click over and go and find out more about Dan. Is there anything coming up over the next couple of months, Dan, for you that you want to tell anybody about? Anything happening in Letters from Dan or Blogging Concentrated that you're excited about right now?
We're putting together a YouTube product right now that I'm hoping will be out in the next couple of weeks, maybe mid-December. And the goal of it is to really teach you how to use YouTube from an annotation standpoint, how to actually use YouTube's tools to drive traffic from one video to the next and actually end up at a sales video that links directly from the video to your website and to your sales page. I really want to teach people how to use YouTube as a business tool and not as a link tool or an entertainment tool. So we're coming up with that really quite shortly, hopefully in the next couple weeks. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Sounds fantastic, and as soon as you come up with that, I would like the link so I can put that below this video as well, so people can click on that and find out more about that, because that sounds great fun. I look forward to that.
Yeah, well, I would love to have you.
All right. Good stuff. Okay, well, we'll call it a day there then. I think, gosh, there's so much information there, guys. You're going to be rewinding, listening back. But do remember, all of this is going to be transcribed. So if you've watched this interview and you want to pick up on some of these absolute gems that we've been talking about, then just below this video there's a PDF that you can download, and there's also the transcription below. And if you want to listen again on the go, then you can also grab the MP3 and listen to it on iTunes. So there's all those different ways that you can consume this amazing interview that we've had today, and nothing remains to be said except thank you very, very much, Dan Morris. You've been amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me. It was enjoyable.
All right, guys, I'll speak to you again very, very soon, and have an awesome week and take some action and make it happen. Get out there and make it happen. Speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.